It really is amazing when the gun community actually comes together to push back against nonsense from the ATF. To add to that, it's also amazing when the people we elected to represent us actually do that. It looks like our legislators stepped up and told the ATF to back off. We'll break it down after this. If you need gun accessories, check out Fab Defense. They have all kinds of parts for the AR platforms like pistol grips, butt stocks, foregrips, and more. I'm really enjoying this sort of mid-range setup on my digital camo AR with the wrap stock, gratis grip, and spike bipod. There's also flip-up sights and parts for your AK or even your pistol. From long-range setups to compact AR pistols and everything in between. Fab Defense has something for everyone. To learn more, check out fab-defense.com. Welcome back to The Gun Collective. My name is Jon Patton, and you are watching The Fight for Gun Rights. This is a show all about Second Amendment news, and we would love it if you got subscribed, followed us on Instagram, or just left a like on this video. That would be cool. Now, hopefully you've all heard by now that at Joe Biden's request, the U.S. Department of Justice has set forth some new proposed rules and guidance for not only stabilizing braces, aka pistol braces, but they've also done so for red flag laws and 80% or incomplete frames and receivers, all of which we've covered. And if you guys missed it or you need a refresher, I'd love it if you guys went and watched those videos to get up to speed on where we're at. In short terms, the ATF is trying to turn millions of gun owners into felons at the behest of a puppet. However, we can stop it and push back. We can submit comments to ATF about the proposed rules on both the braces and 80% stuff through the Federal Register. These comments carry a boatload more weight than like a YouTube or Instagram comment. It's easy to hear that word comment and forget just how significant these comments can be. Unfortunately, though, we can't comment on the red flag law model legislation because it's meant to be a guide for your state to get a little bit more tyrannical. As of right now, the 80% issue has just shy of 80,000 comments, about 78K and change, and the brace issue has a little over 107,000. We have limited time on both of these to submit comments, so if you haven't done it yet, you need to do so soon. There are tons of example comments if you need, like, what do I say? There's tons of those out there, but try to be calm and assertive without like cursing and other shenanigans. It helps to submit effective comments rather than a diatribe about how the ATF should be abolished, even if that is true. The description of this video would have links to all the stuff I've talked about so far. Okay, now that you're fully up to speed, this is where things get a little more spicy. Specifically about the proposed stabilizing brace guidance. 141 members of the House of Representatives and 48 senators have signed letters that in longer terms tell the ATF to shove it up their ass. The congressional letter is shorter, so we'll start there. The opening paragraph basically states that the proposed guidance is a problem. The last line sums it up. This proposed guidance is alarming and jeopardizes the rights of law-abiding gun owners and disabled combat veterans across the country. Simply put. The next paragraph explains how ATF actually says that braces do, in fact, have legitimate uses, and therefore this is not an attempt to curb gun violence, but rather a direct tax on disabled combat veterans. It also states that it's unclear if the gun owner is expected to apply the test/worksheet to the lawfully possessed firearm, or if there's an expectation of someone else handling that. They also point out that there is no process for disabled veterans to report said disability that could exempt them from this unconstitutional process. It goes on to say that they are disturbed that a government agency would issue guidances that would tax and take away the ability of tens of millions of Americans to enjoy constitutionally protected rights. In fact, the ATF seems committed to attacking the constitutionally protected rights of all law-abiding citizens. The next part is fantastic. The Second Amendment is the right that allows us to defend our other rights. If we are to uphold the Constitution, this right cannot be infringed. Boom. Again, this letter has been signed by 141 members of Congress. The letter from the Senate is a bit more lengthy, but also has some really spicy lines that I want to share with you guys. The first page lays out how the senators are upset about this new proposed guidance, and that ATF has flip-flopped on this a bunch in the past. They also point out that because of the growth of the stabilizing brace market, that thousands of American jobs could be at risk due to this current nonsense being proposed. In the last paragraph on that same page, they outline how ATF's guidance has laid out plenty of means for complying, including a really important point that ATF takes months to process the registration forms for SBRs. That's important because if millions of folks submitted forms overnight, this could clog the system up for years potentially, and therefore you wouldn't be able to use your firearm while waiting. The first paragraph on page 3 has some of the points from the congressional letter echoed with questions being asked. It says, does ATF expect individuals to apply the proposed rules' vague and confusing criteria on their own guns, knowing that a good faith error could land them in prison? If not, are gun owners expected to ship off their firearms at their own expense to ATF's Firearms and Ammunition Technology Division for classification? We understand that FAT-D currently takes about a year to classify a single firearm under current workload. Does ATF actually expect millions of gun owners to ship off their firearms to FAT-D potentially for years while awaiting classification decisions? And if FAT-D determines that a brace-equipped pistol is an SBR, will ATF confiscate the weapon until the gun owner complies with the NFA registration and taxation requirements? To where will gun owners turn to appeal FAT-D's classification or to sue for a potential taking of private property without compensation? ATF's proposed rule provides no answers to these questions. They're great questions. I'm going to keep reading because I'm getting the same feeling that I do when I hear song lyrics that really resonate with me. I just feel good. Even more offensive than the operation of the proposed rule is its rationale. ATF claims, without evidence, that the demand for stabilizing braces stems from the desire to have the NFA items without paying for and undergoing NFA regulatory regime. This statement is shocking. It also says demand for the stabilizing brace should not be attributed to the lawlessness of gun owners, but rather their desire to exercise their Second Amendment rights consistent with how ATF interpreted the law in 2017. We are appalled to hear the ATF assume, without evidence, that millions of Americans are participating in a scheme to avoid their legal obligations. The final paragraph delivers the final blow. This is plain wrong. The proposed rule is worse than merely abdicating your responsibility to protect Americans from criminals. You're threatening to turn law-abiding Americans into criminals by imposing the largest executive branch-initiated gun registration and confiscation program in American history. We urge you to turn back, correct this mistake, and withdraw the proposed rule. Slow clap. 48 members of Congress, almost half of them, signed this proposed rule. I think this is freaking fantastic. Now, this is far from a done deal. We need to keep submitting comments on both of the proposed rules, the incomplete receivers and this brace thing, and keep encouraging both your lawmakers and, arguably just as important, the gun industry brands that you support to stand up to this crap. It's time that more brands stand up against this tyranny alongside the gun owners that provide their paychecks. It's time, guys. If you have a brand and you're considering it, get off your ass. Now is the time. I am very curious to hear your thoughts on these letters. Do you think they matter in the grand scheme of things? Will they actually make a difference? Why or why not? Sound off in the comments below this video and let's talk about it. If you don't mind, please hit the like button on this video and share it with your friends so we can make sure that more people are up to date on the nonsense coming out of DC. And if you haven't yet, be sure to follow and subscribe. And as always, thank you all for watching. We'll see you soon.